My name is Cristina Patuelli, and I'm an associate professor at the School of Information and Library Science at Pratt Institute, and I'm the director of LINJAZ. LINJAZ started in 2011, and it is a project, I would say now, in the digital humanities, but when it started, it was just, it started with the idea to experiment with linked open data technologies applied to arts and cultural heritage. We grew kind of organically through different phases with this approach that is typical of linked open data development. You prototype, you pilot, you really get your hands dirty and you learn from doing. So our mantra was start small, but start. What we wanted to do was to find a way to uncover the pretty complex relationships among jazz musicians. I chose jazz not because I'm an historian of jazz, but because I am passionate. I love jazz. And when you do research, you want to do research in an area that you can connect. And we focus on interview transcripts of jazz musicians. And this was the source of our entities and relationships. We had more than 9,000 names of jazz musicians against Library of Congress authority files. And this gave us a pretty strong sound vocabulary with incorporating all the variants of names. And at this point, we have clean names. We have performed the extraction of data from so far 54 interview transcripts from different jazz history archives around the country. And we put together a rich data set. The main purpose of linked data is to share your data, to put your data available for developers to reuse it. And then internally as a project, we wanted also to provide a tool for researchers, but also the general public to explore the data, to discover information, and even to analyze at a more scholarly level our data. So we create this visualization tool, which is something that is very engaging. It has a lot of interactive capabilities, different views. You can do quite a bit of exploration, navigation, and analysis with it. At some point, I started to use this visualization tool because I needed to learn something about certain musicians. A network visualization, it gives you immediately the overview of the community. But then you can narrow it down to a specific musician, and you see all the constellation of relationships around these musicians. You also can select multiple names, and you see how many relationships they share. So this is something that is definitely not possible with tools that are out there. Another important, in my opinion, feature for scholars, but you can mouse over the links and you have the source, the passage from which that link is derived. So I know exactly why these two people are linked, and I can go immediately to the source and see the context. This is incredibly powerful, because if I had to gather this information in other ways, it would require me, well, to do traditional research, go through websites, hoping that this information, these documents are available, collect them, and do manually this kind of integration. I can do it in a nanosecond.